want to know why you want to run, or why you want to run again. And why you want to run again. So let's start with you, Anita, and we're just going to work around the room and just concisely, what are the policy issues you're really concerned about?
Policy issues that I'm interested in working on are job creation, affordable housing, providing some sort of assistance to the foreclosure crisis. I think it's a very hidden problem in Dublin. And I also am interested in maintaining and improving the first responder services so that we have a healthy community.
Okay, so in a nutshell, what do you want to do on job creation? What do you want to do on all these things? I hear a lot of these things, and I wonder, well, what can a city do about job creation, really, foreclosure crisis? I'm not sure that that's really something you guys can do much about.
On the job creation issue, I feel very strongly that the city could do better with establishing partnerships and relationships with some Silicon Valley companies and bringing some more sustainable jobs into Dublin, whether it's we offer some sort of satellite office solution to these companies or work-live sites. And I think we don't have enough of those partnerships right now. And I have the Fortune 500 experience in high tech to develop that area. As to the foreclosure crisis, I don't see much outreach the city does. I have gone to like a Tupperware type party in my neighborhood, unaware that so many people on the street had been foreclosed on, had moved in the middle of the night, had suffered in silence. So I think that's eroding our tax base. When I walk my dogs in the neighborhood, I see many empty houses, and the banks aren't having them up for sale. So I'd like to know why. There's blight.
Okay, but what can the city do about that?
The city can, I think, offer some outreach programs.
What does that mean?
Well, some sort of assistance, directed efforts to, I don't know, partnering with other organizations that would assist the foreclosure prevention.
Okay. Kevin.
Well, first off, we always want to bring in high value, high employers into Dublin. I think we've done that in at least the last 4 years. To the degree we've expanded, obviously, some of the commercial and business districts. We're always trying to look for opportunities to work with the Silicon Valley and any kind of employer. We've got Ross is coming over within the next year. That's going to bring at least 200 jobs into a vacant building, so we're obviously improving that perspective. But there's a lot of there's hundreds of other policies, I shouldn't say hundreds, but several other policy issues that I think have been we've had the opportunity in my last 4 years in tenure to work on. All right, but there are other issues. So I don't know of any other pending issues or policy issues, but I will talk about the fact that what we've done in the last 4 years with regard to expansion of the schools, expansion of the parks, all right, building of the Emerald Glen, building of the historic park. Those are some of the amenities that we've enhanced for the quality of life for residents in the city. So those are some of the primary things. When I mentioned the Emerald Glen, I want to make sure we build and work in partnership with the school district and build not only the pool at the gym, the pool at the high school, but also expand the Emerald Glen swim center and get that built, I should say. Not expand it, but get it built. So work on those issues, continue to work with our amenities, our public park amenities, as well as be fiscally prudent with the resources that we have.
Sean?
Well, as a person that sees a lot when I drive through Dublin, my biggest concerns is traffic. My biggest concerns is pedestrian safety. My concerns are that people are not driving with good driving skills in mind. They just want to turn a corner, even though they can see it with the flag. They still want to turn in front of you before you get off the sidewalk. I wanna see, more, policemen hired in the city. I wanna be able to help out with the, firefighters, making sure that the firefighters get, everything that they, deserve as far as getting more firefighters hired. I wanna see, the ambulance, people having different hubs around the city instead of having them park in parking lots waiting for this call to go in. I wanna see, we actually had a couple hubs here and they were all taken away. And I wanna have them put back in. I got more to say.
Okay.
I can come back to it if you want.
Well, just very quickly.
I want to see the city. I want to see the councilmen's work with the schools on making the schools better. I want to, like I wanted to years ago when I ran, I wanted to be a part of making sure that the right teachers were hired properly. 'Cause I don't like to see discrimination in schools about the disabilities. If there are,
Okay, Sean, I'm gonna cut you off here for a second. I hear your concern about the issue. I'm just not sure that that's an issue that I mean, if you're running for school board, I'd want to probe that, but I'm not really sure what the role is as a first city council there.
well, as a city councilman, you are running for each and every person that lives in Dublin, that walks in Dublin, that drives their car in Dublin, that making sure that they can get to the store safely. Okay, in the schools are a part of the city. Okay, even though that is a school board issue, it is also a civil right issue of
I totally get that, Sean. It's just that just seems to me that it's the school board. It's an issue for the school board, not for the city council.
Well, I will also I would like to say that I would like to work with the businesses. The businesses, I would like to see them hire the disabled more. I would like to see I would like to have incentives for the businesses to hire Dublin residents. I don't like to see all the people that
Welcome.
Thank you. I got it.
I don't like to see people that live in Dublin have to go to San Francisco to go to get a good job. I want to have jobs available for people that live in Dublin, get to work in Dublin.
And Daniel, while we kind of make a little bit of a transition, I would like to add a little bit to what Sean is saying.
Well, we'll come around. I just want to go around once, and then
Okay.
we'll have an interchange.
Do you want to keep going this way, or do you
I
want
want to keep going in order.
Perfect. Okay. Very
Yeah.
good. The question.
Well, I would like you to very quickly give me an overview of why you're running policy-wise. Okay, I don't want, as I said to the others, I understand that you want to serve. Everybody wants to serve, okay, and give back to the community. We're concerned about what are the policy issues that concern you?
What I would like to do though, Shehu Hassan is my name. What I would like to see happen though is to actually have a more constructive growth. To kind of try to find a way how we can balance the growth. When I say that, I'm talking about the citizens and the developers, and not just to keep growing. There has to be a plan there. That's one area I'm looking at very, very closely. Also, I would like to actually take a look at the green. I want to talk about green. We talk about green, green this, green that. I would like to have for the city council to take up the leadership of making Dublin more green. Okay. When it comes to parks, bicycles, those things, I would like to actually have more bike lanes. Okay. And I would like to actually more parks when you are growing, and if you are not balancing that growth with more parks, more rec areas, all those things. That is what I'm running.
Okay. David.
Well, the three macro planks of my platform are
Micro or macro?
Macro.
Okay.
The broad view.
Okay.
Economic development and enhancing the economic development. Dublin's done a great job. We want to keep that going and improve it as best we can. That includes managed growth as well as attracting businesses. I think we can look at more fast track programs for companies that want to relocate to Dublin. We could probably do more in the area of outreach and marketing the great, as Kevin likes to say in the past, the hidden jewel, not so hidden anymore, but Dublin is a great place for companies to market, to come to do business. We need to market that maybe a little bit better. Number two is to increase and expand community services for residents of all ages, including preschool, including elderly. They call it cradle to grave, and I think we can do a better job of listening to the people of Dublin, actually tell us what they want, how they want it, and to provide services that fill their needs.
Okay, let me ask you, and expand.
Yeah.
Expand, to me, I hear dollar signs coming.
Well, so for example, encouraging the development of preschools. I think there's a shortage of preschools, and we could work with businesses to bring more to Dublin, especially on the east side of Dublin, where we have lots of strollers and not many preschool alternatives, things like that, services. We have the Children's Museum that's got plans. We need to make sure that we hit on those plans, but it's housed in unfortunately, a mobile unit that I think we could do a lot better to make sure that happens as fast as it can. At Emerald Glen, here again, the kids are in portables. So expanding those services for all ages there, all the way up to seniors. And I think we do a great job with our seniors, but listening even more. I hear too many people say, my input was asked for, but I'm not sure it was really listened to. Came to a community forum and they took a bunch of notes, but then nothing happened. And so follow through with our residents is important for me.
Okay, what's the third?
And then the last one is maintaining our quality of life in Dublin and safety. Working to ensure that we keep Dublin safe, working sure to, as we grow, that we have the support for our local police and fire departments.
Doreen.
Okay, very similar. I also want to maintain the economic development. I think a key area of focus would be West Dublin. I think we have a great opportunity there with the West Dublin BART station coming in and continued planned development there that has been approved, and bringing in businesses, as Anita mentioned. There's also opportunity there for commercial development, bringing in tenants for lease space. There's checking, I believe, on the availability. We have very limited availability for lease space, and there are opportunity to bring in larger companies and build out some commercial space. Also, West Dublin, there's opportunity for retail, additional filling in some of the vacant spots. We've been doing a great job so far, and I think we can continue that there. There is a plan, and I've worked on that as a planning commissioner there with Dublin. So also to maintain our police and safety, fire and safety. We have acceptable levels, and I think I'd like to maintain that level of service that we have. And also parks, I can't agree more. Shared resources between the schools and the city. The pool service is one thing. My son used that pool and it's antiquated. I'd like to see
Shared resources between the
parks, city
Yeah.
resources, and working with the schools
and the
for
schools. Okay.
you know, swim meets, et cetera. Those are the things that I think we'd like to continue working with. We've done a great job, I think, on the parks, build out with Shannon Center, Community Center, Emerald Glen, and then also on the east side as well, as the new housing developments continued to maintain those services.
Just lost my place here. Every once in a while, this computer does a thing on its own. Don't ask me why. What I'd like to do is I'd like to start with you, Doreen, and I'd like to work the other way around. And I'd like to get a sense from each of you of how you see sort of the budgetary framework of this city versus other cities, and whether you agree with the budgetary philosophy of this city versus other cities.
From my involvement so far, the budget, I think we have excellent leadership with the city staff. Joni Patillo does a good job with Chris Voss. And reevaluating our fees was a recent issue. That's good policy to make sure that we are consistent among the other cities. And the way everything is allocated at this point seems appropriate. They've looked at also wages and benefits, et cetera, trying to be consistent and maintain our city as we, basic policy is pay as you go. We're not over in debt, and we've maintained very well, I think.
Okay, so that's really what I want to focus in on. Pay as you go. Give me your thoughts on it. Dublin is kind of unique, and it's not totally unique, but it's unusual in that sense.
Well, it's so insane. I think the staff has been fiscally responsible in making decisions, as well as the council. Current, past, it's been very good leadership, very cohesive group, and I just can't argue with a whole lot of decisions that they've made.
David?
Well, I also agree with pay as you go in terms of not overextending the financial resources of a city. I think that Dublin is blessed to have the development that it has had, which has helped maintain services, but at some point in time that may run out, and as we complete development, we'll have to really be sure to be able to continue to afford the services that we have. But for the time being, we're on the right course, and I favor pay as you go. I also think the Dublin.
Okay, let me see what I'm hearing here, because you kind of mixed a couple of things, or maybe they are related. Are you saying that pay as you go is something that they may not be able to do in the future? What are you saying when you say as we complete development, we need to make sure we have the resources? What do you mean by that?
So, for example, the city of Dublin would charge perhaps a community development or community benefit fee. That's new development coming in and having to pay for something, amenity in the city. As development occurs and as we build out and have no more development, we won't have those same resources coming into the city. They're one-time fees paid in advance by upcoming development as we finish.
Theoretically, those one-time fees are for
Correct.
one-time expenses.
Could be, although those one-time expenses need maintenance over time, need repair, need replenishment, need replacement. And so without the fuel of that increased future development, we'll have to pay for those replacements by ourselves.
Isn't that what property taxes are about?
Perhaps,
Yeah.
depending on how many we add, and are we truly recognizing the future long-term impacts of those.
Are you suggesting in all of this that pay-as-you-go is something that's an idea for now but may not be an idea for the future, or what are you suggesting?
No, I think it's a concept that stands into the future, but how we manage it may change as we approach build-out.
What do you mean by that, how we manage it?
Indeed, making sure that we do invest only in things that are one-time, that we invest for the long haul and hold reserves for replenishment into the future, that we transition into property tax, things that we may need to have, parcel taxes or other things to replace those developer fees.
So what, I just want to be real clear, because I want to make sure I could interpret what you're saying many, many ways. Are you saying you should hold fast to pay-as-you-go, or are you saying that it's something to alter in the future?
Hold fast to pay-as-you-go,
Mm-hmm.
I think, but truly understand the implications of what you're adding as you go. If that makes sense. If I'm
Okay, in other words, be
more
careful
clear.
of how you
Yeah,
spend the money.
correct.
Okay.
I think we've also done a great job with city expenses, pensions and wages, and we haven't allowed ourselves to get into the red, so to speak, or have to really, we're certainly a lot better off than many other cities that are having to adjust employee plans.
Okay, anyway, thank you.
And
I agree with pay as you go, actually. We are very fortunate. I must say, though, our Quarter Council, they've done a very good job in how to manage budget. Okay, but we got to be very careful. I think that it's too soon for us to just say yes. They've done a wonderful job. So, that all is well. We are very lucky in the sense we are still growing. Okay, and we have more revenue coming in. Those things. But how we manage is very, very important. One thing that I think that we're doing right now, though, if you can afford something, okay, find a way, find money first to see where you're going to get the money from. Don't just say, let's go and borrow it. Let's get a loan, because we are still going to have to pay. And I think I've seen some of that. It may be okay. 5 years, 10 years down the line, you still have to pay the bill. So, in a way, we've got to be really careful and manage our growth right now. Manage those expenses, because we are very, very fortunate. There are many cities right now, where we are right now. But not having the foresight is why.
there are many cities, I'm sorry, say that again?
So, there are many cities
Yeah,
in the country
right?
that didn't have the foresight.
That didn't have the
Yes,
budget.
right,
Okay.
right. So let's use this opportunity of this, of having to manage budget very well, and kind of build on that. Okay, that's one. The issue of pension is not within the city. That's almost nothing we can do about that. But there was I may be wrong. I think there was a situation where there was a person, a public employee, who actually retired, who was making $11,000 prior to retiring, and after he retired, still get about $7,000 a month, almost $9,000 a year, and the guy was making $100,000 prior to retiring. Even though we have no control over that, but I'm sure we can nudge our state, lawmakers, kind of look at that, plan for that.
Sean?
I just have a quick question off the record.
There's nothing off the record in here.
Can you, let them go first and then I'll.
No, we're gonna go around.
Alright. Well, the thing that I see as a person who has been in the city for 28 years, I want, as far as the city employees go, it would be nice if we all were able to get a pension from the city after we retire from service or working in the city offices or whatever. But sometimes it isn't feasible to do that when we don't have enough money in the budget to be able to go on and say, okay, Sean, you're done with your service. Thank you, but we cannot pay you for now on because of this or that. I want to make sure that if we are going to have pensions in there, that we have it to spread around, and if it's going to be feasible to keep this going on. When you're working, and you're trying to make a difference in the city. Okay, you are actually after a certain amount of time, you're entitled to your Social Security. If they have a Social Security sort of thing for the city employees, great. If they can't, I would not push it. I would not.
Let me ask you a broader question. Give me your sense of how well you think, as a whole, the city's finances are being managed, and whether you agree with the pay-as-you-go philosophy or not.
Well, pay-as-you-go is fine, to the sense that we have collected so much money this month, we can pay you for this month. If we don't have enough money for the next month, we're just gonna, not pay you for next month. That's how pay-as-you-go go. You buy a telephone, the phone gets cut off because.
Okay, so my question to you, what we're talking about in terms of pay-as-you-go is we're talking about this notion that this is a city that has taken on really no bonded indebtedness for construction projects, as I understand it. Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it's a good idea.
Excuse me. Kevin?
One of the things that's unique about Dublin, as you've already indicated, Daniel, is that we have no debt. And we do that by...
You have no structural... You do have debt.
Well, through expenses on a...
Pardon?
Sure, through normal expenses of running the city, but
You
no
have an
structural...
unfunded liability on your return system.
To some degree, yeah, but we've also decreased that over the...
You have, but that is debt.
Yes, it is. All right.
Okay.
Unfunded debt, as you
That is
indicated.
absolutely debt.
So with that said, though, we have obviously reduced our overall budget, operating budget, in the last few years by 10%, which obviously increases, obviously the ability to have funds for other areas. All right, we have our employees pay their fair share of their retirement pension. All right, and we do not fund projects unless we can pay for them. All right, with cash. An example is the historic park. So obviously, I'm very supportive of the pay-as-you-go because that's the only way to do business. Because I think you get in trouble, as other cities have, when you have the outstanding debt. Then you got to have potential refinance, and you never know what the market's going to be like. So that's the only way to do things. All right, is pay-as-you-go, but it also makes sure that you have your resources all right, to be fiscally prudent. And I think we've done that. To answer your initial question is, with regard to the finances. I think if we manage our resources, all right, if we manage our employee unions aspects and our employee costs, we can still be efficient running city, which is what I think we've done.
Do I recall correctly, you're 2.7 and 55?
That's correct.
Okay. And you haven't gone to second tier?
No.
Why not?
I haven't really need to at this point in time with the
You have an
employees.
unfunded liability.
Minimal.
You don't really know how much it is because you're in the pool right now.
That's correct.
Right. So you don't know
That's
how
correct.
minimal it really is.
That's probably correct. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's always going to be those unknowns. Every city has those unknowns. All right, when you're in that pool. But we're in a pool with multiple other cities and jurisdictions and municipal
Yeah,
districts.
but if you went
throughout
to
the state.
second tier, you'd be in a pool with a different and lower unfunded liability.
We haven't. I will tell you, we haven't necessarily even looked at it yet. We just recently, all right, went with the employees of them paying their fair share.
Well,
So, I mean, I think it's a gradual kind of process.
AB 340 will take care of that for you.
It probably will.
I was just curious why you hadn't ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, we've always tried to get ahead of the curve, and that's just one thing we haven't done it as of yet.
2.7 and 55 is a pretty generous pension plan.
If you look at it in comparison to what was just, enacted and signed into
If
law,
you look at
sure.
it compared to most of the pension plans for miscellaneous workers under CalPERS, it's one of the more generous plans.
And that might be one of the unique things about Dublin, and that's why people want to come to Dublin, and people don't leave Dublin until they retire.
But it's building.
So part of that is, it's got to be it's got to go both ways. You want to have high quality, top-notch people, then obviously they want those benefits.
Yeah, but I'm
I,
because you're the incoming here. I'm
sure,
teasing you
absolutely,
out here.
absolutely. Please
You
do.
know, at the same time, your philosophy on pay as you go seems pretty solid in a lot of ways, and
Right.
then you kind of toss it out the window when it comes to retiree benefits.
Well, but we also want to take care of our employees.
Well, I know, but how do you square this notion
I think
of
it's,
not wanting to take on debt?
but you're
but
talking
you're
about
taking-
two different things, though. You're talking about two different issues, two different kinds of funding sources.
Yeah, if
You know,
anything, the reverse is that there's an argument that people can make that it makes sense to bond debt for a structure. But why would you bond debt for past labor costs? Why would you take on debt for past labor costs?
Well, I don't think that we are,
Well, that's exactly what your unfunded liability is.
but we're not. Well, we're only incurring that because it's there. We're not purposely doing it, other than we're not changing it, going to the second tier is what you're talking about.
Well, you're not.
We're not fixing what you believe is the unfunded liability problem, and further
Do you
decreasing the
believe
amount.
it's an unfunded liability?
Of course it
problem?
is.
Okay.
There's no question about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does
and
it
it will
grow
be.
as
But I
well?
think it's important though, where we have a strong work base. All right. If you may not know, we don't have union employees. We don't have a union. Do you realize that?
Yes.
So one of the reasons why we don't is because we take care of our employees. All right, we do that where we try to be competitive with our salaries as well as competitive with our retirement, and I think that makes a huge impact on what you've heard already about what the city staff does every day, 24/7 to take care of business. All right, for the community.
I just want to tease you out on this.
I
because
appreciate
you are
that. I
gonna
like
come
that.
in. We're going to go around on this issue in a second with everyone. Anita,
Yes, I think,
budgetary philosophy.
right, I think Dublin, with the pay-as-you-go strategy, and the prior city manager, he actually left the city very flush with cash. And then Joni Patillo took over, and she's continuing to manage the budget very, very well. And I know that we have taken prudent cuts where necessary. For instance, and it also ties into how we, work with the development to stimulate, economic development and building. And for instance, as an example, they suspended the art fund for developers for several years, so developers could go ahead and build out and not have to contribute to the art fund. and the city hasn't suffered. Now we've re-implemented that art fund. So that was a little benefit, a little stimulus to the developers. And I agree with those kind of policies. Additionally, we've made little cuts here and there. We cut counts when you're watching your budget. We suspended the summer concerts the city puts on. And now in 2013 we'll be re-implementing those. So I agree with the pay-as-you-go philosophy. I think it's done the city very well, with the exception of the unfunded debt, which seems to be a very common problem for a lot of municipalities and governments across the nation, actually.
Haven't found one in the state without it so far.
Right.
Yeah.
And certainly we are on the other end of the spectrum from a city like Stockton.
With the exception of those who have no
Right,
benefit. Okay, so let's talk about this philosophy of should the city be looking, should this, you know, it does become sort of moot with the new pension bill as to, you will have to have a second tier for your new employees. It will be less than $2,755. But A, is that a good idea? And B, should the city have acted sooner on its own? Anyone have thoughts?
I'll start out.
Stick
Not
your
that-
neck out, Doreen.
Yeah, well, not that I'm going to be an expert on this, because I'm not, but I think, yes, it would be a good idea, and it's very evident across the state that everyone needs to make cutbacks, and everyone needs to plan for their own retirement. You know, there's no uniqueness just because you work for the city or, you know, even myself. You know, I worked for a long time for a company, and they're making cutbacks in order to maintain their viability. And I think it is important for all cities to look at that as future. We have a 10-year plan out there for our operational budgets and plant maintenance, you know, various things to proceed with. And I think we have to look at it as a whole to make sure that it works for the future.
Anyone else? Thoughts?
Well, all I can say though is a good idea, a bad idea, we don't have a choice.
Pardon?
We don't have a choice. It has to be done. So,
What do you mean?
I
You
mean,
don't have a
so-
choice, what has to be done?
What we actually have to look at it. It's going to be, we just can, we can't leave things the way they are right now. Okay?
No, you
pension-
won't be able to leave things the way they are because for second tier, you will have no choice.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, and I think it's a matter of us taking a leadership action on it and be proactive and doing things, putting things in place.
One thing that I will add to the fact, we have taken the active approach, all right, where the employees are paying their fair share. All right, that's an active approach that we've done, for one. Number two, we also have a 2-year budget cycle versus a 1-year budget cycle, which obviously assists in that process. But more importantly, as you indicated, Daniel, we are gonna get to the second tier, all right, that's the inevitable. But we also wanna make sure we do it in such a way we don't compromise, all right, the security that the employees feel, all right, we do it in a gradual way with their understanding and respect and so forth. So I think it's
The current
important.
employees won't be sacrificed for that anyway.
True,
Yeah.
but they will be impacted, all right,
How so?
emotionally. And I say that because now you got a 2-tier system. So now you're gonna have someone that's gonna come in that's gonna be a new employee, but will have day-to-day access and working relationship with a first tier, all right, that creates a different climate, for lack of better words, environment.
It's a climate that's being created in almost every city around the state right now.
And all I'm saying is that we are getting there. We are fiscally solvent, obviously. We'll continue to be that way. But all I'm saying is that it's not something that I'm prepared to say has to happen, all right, tomorrow. I think we'll make sure that we do it right in a process where it's fair and objective to all of our staff. I think our staff are the most important part, obviously, of our city. They work their butts off for the city, for the community, and I just want to make sure we do it appropriately, not just for the current staff and employees, but for the unborn, because it will still have an impact. As much as you may think it won't, it still will have an impact on the current staff.
I would like to state that a person that has actually dealt with most of the staff on a daily basis when I go in and I talk about sidewalks and whatnot. I feel that a way to get around some of this stuff is that if everybody knows what everybody else's job is, if you go to the counter and you go, I'm sorry, I have to ask a question about traffic, and you get a plumber to come up and to answer the question, they don't know what you're talking about. If everybody knows what they're talking about, each and everybody can help each other's job to make everything simpler. And that would make it easier so that you don't have to hire more people to do other jobs that are not necessary. Me, if I was hired in the city, which I have been trying for 28 years to get a job in the city, I would want to know each and every aspect of the city, how it runs, how they make plans for, to sell a person that works in Dublin, if he owns a business, to make, to put in the paperwork to do their sign out front, or giving, having a person that knows each and every aspect of the job of whatever, like I'm at work. I get sick. I can't go to work. Someone else has to fill that position. If they are able to fill that position, then they don't have to call up someone to
Sure.
fill in. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that's a way to cut costs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another way is if you go to a second tier, I would go there very, very slowly. Okay, I would not just throw it on everybody and go, okay, this is the way that's gonna be, and everybody gonna go tear each other's hair out and stuff like that. I gradually rolled it in and say, okay, now are we settled with this? Okay, this is how it's gonna be. You just don't want to hammer it. That's it. Today, good. Tomorrow, bad.
Okay.
Daniel, I think that we have to really tread carefully with the two-tier system. I know it's something that will have to come, it's going to come from the state, so we'll have to implement it. But I echo Kevin's concern that we'll have a workforce that's divided into those that have a certain plan and those that come later that have a lesser plan, doing the same job side by side. And unfortunately, it's a fact of life given pending state law, but any way that we can seek to minimize that divide, I think, is important to look at.
Okay, let me explore this for a second to understand your philosophy. You say it's a fact of life given pending state law. Are you saying
If it passes.
If
He's
it
already
passes,
signed
it's already signed it.
He's already signed it.
Yeah. Well, when it's implemented, I'm sorry, it was
January
in January, right?
2013.
Yeah, January 1st, yeah. I'm trying to understand, if it wasn't pending state law,
Mhm.
would you then think you shouldn't be doing it?
I would say that absent that, we would be even more aggressive, I think, as a city in looking at reining in our unfunded liabilities. We've gone down that path by cutting costs. We've gone down that path by asking employees to pay more. We've gotten better by reining that in, but we would have to do even more on our own. And I don't know that if the rest of the state weren't going to a two-tier system, that we wouldn't find perhaps another solution on our own. To your point, we could have been searching for that all along, and I think many cities in the state should have been.
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to understand of it is, you said two things there. If not for the state, it's a fact given the pending state law, which suggests to me that if not for the pending state law, you wouldn't see this as a route you'd want to be going. Number one. And number two, you say you have a concern about workforce that's divided. And while I sort of hear this, I guess my concern is then what's the alternative that won't divide the workforce that actually gets at your problem?
Cutting other costs so that we can afford our liability.
Cutting other costs like what?
Within the city operations, we've mentioned that we've had to cut costs when more of a pay-as-you-go model, right? We have certain funds that come in. We are not paying our full weight each year. That's why we would have a growing pension liability. Absent state intervention, I think we would need to rein that in by cutting costs elsewhere in the budget, raising revenues, and/or asking for employees to continue to pay more of their pension as we've done. We've made steps in the right direction. I don't think we ever fully corrected. Now we're going down a path that we have to go down. Absent that, we would have.
So absent the legislation and governor's action, you would have not gone down this path.
I think I would have explored other alternatives as well as this path, but I would have done something to make sure that we rein in our unfunded liabilities.
Part of the problem though with that is David, and I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
is that the increased unfunded liabilities can continue to, expand, all right? And it just exacerbates itself. So there's something that needs to be done. I think that we are very fortunate in Dublin where, we have minimized that, but there's still gonna have an exponential factor involved there with that, with the pensions. The pensions, it's funny because I've been involved in pensions all my life, and they're expensive, both on the front ends and the back ends. All right, they're extremely expensive, and I think that this is actually an opportunity to some degree for the cities to kind of come back and say, to the employee groups, because that's always been the rub. All right, is going back to the employee groups, and it's hard to sell because I've been on both sides. The fact that we had already been kind of talking about the second tier. We hadn't gone into any official discussions yet. All right, but I will tell you though that it's going to something that's inevitable. It's going to happen because of the huge cost of unfunded liability. And then when you throw in all the other different factors, healthcare, and you got workers' comp, and you got risk management costs, also further exacerbate the problem. So it's something that needs to be done that we will, and we're looking at prior to. Now we all knew that this was going to be happening and pending. So
I have another thing to say, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Another way that you can save costs is that because I live in Dublin, I've always wanted to work for Dublin in the city hall. If we had more people that were actually living in Dublin, able to work for the city of Dublin.
But you can't require that.
No, not make a requirement, but I'm saying having if they can work for Dublin, if they don't have far to commute, you're saving gas, you're saving resources, you're saving the city of having to pay for their mileage to go from wherever they're coming from, which is far away, to come to work, to be there on time, to be able to clock in on time, clock out on time without having to do things because they are overwhelmed with if things come up and they gotta clock out because of overtime. And then they gotta go and then they gotta spend the hour to go back home. Okay?
Let me hear from Anita on this question now, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Anita, I want to hear your philosophy on this pension question.
Right, and essentially, even though there could be a psychological and emotional toll on newer Tier 2 employees, I think the fact of the matter is that anybody now out seeking a job would be probably very happy to have a position with any kind of retirement benefit. So it doesn't preclude the city of Dublin in the future to do something additional with the retirement, maybe add some more percent to it.
Percent.
That the city would pay into the retirement fund of a tier 2 person. So that doesn't preclude, just because we're going to this tier 2 now, doesn't preclude the city from not doing something like that in the future, if feasible.
Okay, Tribune, we kind of started with you. You want to wrap this up since you kind of got, where you are philosophically on all this? Because this sort of second tier.
With the pension?
Yeah.
Well, I agree, there could be emotional, but as Anita says, people are very happy to get a job these days. It's very difficult. So I'm still in support that the tier 2, less benefits is acceptable, and as many more companies are also following suit, they're doing the same, and people are just having to go with it. And I think more plan for yourself as opposed to rely on benefits, because eventually, not saying future, but the luxury of supporting that maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now may not be viable, where there'll be more cuts without state intervention. The city may have to do that, and it's a fact of life as budgets need to be met, as safety is important that we maintain. People out there that don't have jobs, as citizens prefer to have safety as a factor versus someone else's pension.
Hassan, you want to say something?
Oh, yes, please. Well, I have actually been in I actually own a company. Okay. I sold a company a few years ago. My training is to hire people, employment. And I can tell you I've hired, at least, if I can just guess, would be tens of thousands of people, from CEO all the way down. How you communicate something to people is very, very important. Is the communication. People that we currently have right now, if they know that we are trying to protect them and help them, they will actually be happy, and the ones coming in as well are going to be happy because now they have a job. So it's nothing unusual at all to have two-tier system.
I'm curious, we have, Kevin's been through this drill, and Kevin's been through the council drill, but there are 3 of you that hold public office right now of one form or another. And I'm curious from you 3 how you see that helping or not helping and playing into your roles from your planning commission, arts commission, school board position.
And
And wheelchair advocate, if you will.
I am also on the wheels board for the paratransit in Livermore.
Okay. On which?
It's the WAC committee. It's
Okay, so you're on a committee of wheels.
wheelchair access.
Okay. Okay, so why don't you real quickly tell us how that would or wouldn't help, real quickly, if you were elected to the city council.
Well, as a person dealing with traffic problems all the time, with a person who rides buses all the time, I think that that if everybody is more in tune to riding transit more, it might be easier on the on the roads. It'd be easier on the traffic situation. You wouldn't have 100,000 people in our city every day going here or there
And how would that help you? What I'm asking is, how would that help you as a city council member?
Help me, it would help me to help the persons that are living in the city, because helping me is helping you. Helping me to get elected would be making sure that you are safe. All right. If you're safe, I'm safe. We're all safe.
Anita, what is your experience in public office bring you, if anything, to, you know, I mean, should we weigh that and why?
You should weigh that because it's brought a valuable, eye-opening lesson to me in the interface between the public community and the city government. While I'm not directly working as a city employee, 9 to 5, being a member of the commission has allowed me to understand how the city operates and to examine the budgets and to examine the projects and the plans for the city, and then to take input and feedback from the community. So even though I had extensive business experience, I had no knowledge or prior experience other than when I got to the commission on the importance of that.
I was planning commissioner for 8 years, 2 4-year terms. I'll be termed out this year. The experience I've gained that working with city staff, understanding zoning or planning, parking requirements, all the details as a part of our growth in Dublin has been extremely helpful. So I have that experience now, and I feel I can get into city council and expand a little bit more knowledge, of course, through the budgets, etc. I sit on the various meetings as I'm part of the city when it comes down to the yearly meetings on budgets and the various economic development committees. So I understand the process and I understand where we are to date with it.
I would say
David.
that great organizations, city government, school boards, any organizations, don't just happen overnight. They take good people, but they also take good leaders. For the last 10 years, I've proven to be an excellent leader, in my opinion, by hiring the right people, and in the case of the school board, the right person, the superintendent, but providing clear direction on who, the qualities of the people that we would bring into the district, by laying out goals and objectives and clear standards and clear accountability for that superintendent. That takes good governance. At the same time, I've also gone through the California School Boards Association Masters in Governance program. They call it Masters in Governance. Please don't confuse it for a master's degree, but it's the Masters in Government, MIG, which has been helpful. And I think that amount of time, 10 years, year in and year out, providing clear results, balanced budgets, rising test scores, improved facilities, it speaks for itself. And that's what we need at the city council level.
Why are you giving up such an important job?
So slightly related question, but different. I absolutely feel that I've contributed to the school board 10 full years of service. I think that my youngest is a 7th grader, going to finish in a very successful school district. I've done all I can and more for the schools. They're on a great course. They have a great board assembled and don't need me as much anymore. And yet the challenges of city government are new to me from a standpoint of haven't been directly elected to the city. So I'm looking forward to the challenges of civic government leadership. So I think I look at it as my services will be valuable there.